Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I want to share a story that's been keeping me up at night. So there's this character Eva. She's a werewolf-human hybrid, which is already pretty intense, right? But she can't shift and her own parents replaced her with werewolf twins. So she's been living with the Ongeza, who are like her only support system, but she's still so damaged. And then on her 18th birthday she decides she's had enough and tries to take her own life. But someone from another pack finds her, and he is actually really kind. But can she trust him after everything she's been through? Prologue. All werewolves are cut from the same cloth, magnificent, formidable, courageous, and capable of transforming into majestic wolves. But I was dealt a cruel hand of fate, emerging as an anomalous werewolf-human hybrid. This meant that while I possessed heightened senses, hearing, strength, speed, smell, and even sight, when I willed it, my inner wolf remained eerily silent, and I was incapable of shifting. I am Eva. Just Eva. No surname to speak of. Technically, I belonged to Moonrise Pack, but years of abuse and mistreatment had gradually imbued me with the scent of a rogued sentence once the pack caught wind of it. Despite my unfortunate circumstances, I was entirely unappealing. My gray ears and tail complemented my raven black hair perfectly, while my sun-kissed skin provided a striking contrast. Grayish-blue eyes completed the ensemble, making me quite a sight to behold. My frame was unnaturally thin due to constant starvation, but compared to the werewolves, I was just passable. Yeah, passable. The Ongeza raised me as their own, showering me with a peculiar form of happiness. I didn't need my biological parents or pack approval. The Ongeza made me feel safe and cherished. Born to the pack's betas, I was unceremoniously dumped with the Ongeza. My parents then adopted twin werewolf siblings to replace me, effectively erasing my existence. Daily abuse became my norm, with the Ongeza patching me up before my blood could paint the floors. My accelerated healing was the only thing keeping me alive. My parents were far from kind. Monsters belong with Ongeza, normal werewolves with other werewolves. My father's cruel words echoed as he wrapped an arm around my mother's waist, leaving an 11-year-old me sobbing at the foot of the stairs, devoid of comfort or solace. On my 18th birthday, lying on the cold concrete floor of the pack cells, I made a decision. If death was inevitable, I wouldn't give my pack the satisfaction. I'd end it myself, alone, where I could finally find peace. And so, my story truly begins as I step beyond my pack's territory, gazing upon a breathtaking ocean, a large kitchen knife clutched in my trembling hand. I prepare to wade into the water and let myself sink into its depths. At last, I felt a glimmer of happiness. Then someone broke my moment of peace. Chapter 1 in Gone. I ran through that sickly dark forest with tears streaming down my bruised cheeks and blood dripping from a cut on my lip. I held a large kitchen knife in my hand, wearing only a thin single that reached above my knees, sticking closely to my body so you could see my underwear underneath. I was breathing heavily as I bounded over small rocks and tree branches that fell to the forest floor. My shoeless feet felt blessed running on the wet and moist grass of the dirt path leading to a beach. Trees seemed to hide me from the moon, and I was thankful for the darkness as it made me feel more secure. A distant howl from behind made me push myself harder. I can't go back. I'm not going back. I refuse to be with people that look at me with so much disgust. So I kept running, my ears tucked close to my head. My tail was like a lifeless rag behind me, and I didn't care where it went as long as it didn't ruin my running, so I could only imagine what it looked like behind me. I felt my oily and unpecked hair slap the middle of my back every few paces, and it kept my mind centered on running instead of how tired I was becoming with every step I took closer to my demise. The trees were rushing past me so fast I could only see a blur. The only thing not blurring is the path ahead of me and that big bright stupid moon in the sky. I wanted to scream at the moon goddess for making me what I am, but I never even tried. I didn't want to be tortured for being so cruel to the moon goddess, even though she was the one that did this to me. The night sky above me was mesmerizing. The small stars twinkled Wiped they were the biggest things there, and the moon stood full and proud in all its glory, with every cloud coming close being so magically pushed away so everyone can enjoy its soft light. More howls were heard, snapping me out of my dazed thoughts as I continued to leap and bound over small rocks and logs. I could begin to hear the heavy breathing of what were supposed to be my pack mates running behind me. Loud thumps of paws against the same path I only ran on moments before. I could feel the annoyance and anger of the lifeless creatures behind me as they stayed hot on my trail, thirsty for my blood to be spilled over the green grass. Small tears cascaded down my cheeks as the overwhelming pit of despair and sadness surfaced from inside my stomach. The only emotion I've ever known since the age of 11 coming back to haunt me. I didn't want this anymore. I didn't think I deserved it. So I pushed myself harder and faster, trying my best to get to the beach where I knew there was only neutral territory, where I knew I would be safe from the claws and teeth, where I could end it all. Then finally, I broke out of the tree line, my snarl immediately changing to a rogue as I accepted the choice I had made of leaving the bastards of the Moonlight Pack behind. The pain barely there, as they had already abandoned me from the moment I was born. I felt my legs relax, first falling out from underneath as I skidded across the sand, heavy breathing entering my ears. The warmth and confirmed I got away. That I wasned aloud back, what now? Turning back to the forest, I watched as many different pairs of glowing eyes emerged from the darkness, watching me. With growls coming from in between their teeth every few moments, the glint of canines sending a shiver down my spine. I continuously stared, watching them as I embraced the warm sand. But soon the eyes were there, and then they were gone. In an instant, as if the wolves that were just trying to kill me vanished into the thin air, with only the thumping of paws retreating showing me they were actually there and not a figment of my imagination. They were all gone in a matter of moments, and I was left laying alone in the middle of a large stretch of beach. Alone, only holding a single kitchen knife. The ocean sent waves in steady motions towards the sand, as the moon leaving a trail of silver light across the waves. Its trail on the water leading to the horizon where the sun was to break over in the morning. The sand on my feet still felt slightly warm from yesterday's sunshine, and it made me dig my feet deeper into the sand, a big grin stretched out on my face. I got up slowly, my muscles tingling from the marathon I had just ran. I stumbled towards the water's edge with the small waves just lapping my toes. At first I jumped back at the immediate contact, as I never realized how cold the water would be compared to the soft and warm sand, but when I set my feet in again, it was one of the most relaxing sensations I've ever felt on my tiny toes. But that said, I could feel movement behind me. But when I turned, I saw no one there but my fluffy gray tail going ballistic at how happy I was. It made me break out into a huge grin. My tail has twagged this hard in years, and I can't help but enjoy this, and that keeps getting flicked up in my face. Geez, I sound like a puppy. I fell to the ground just at the water's edge, my legs underneath me, my knees lightly grazing the water, my tail flat behind me as I stared out at the mystical water. I was in a trance. It was the prettiest sight I've ever seen. Small rocks that appeared in the water made the salty water fall into my face as the waves crashed into them. My smile brightened at the sight. The tears cascaded down my cheeks. The one stares of sorrow now are only filled with complete and utter bliss at this feeling I felt. I haven't felt this feeling in years, and if I'd died, I wanted to die feeling this. I felt happiness and peace. So with that in mind, I sat crouched on the beach. I raised the knife, though was still grasped in my right hand. Raising it to my throat, and as I held it there, I thought of my life. It's cruel. Life is cruel, and it will always be cruel. I'm glad I'm doing this. I pressed the knife closer to my throat, expecting pain. I had cut myself before, so I knew what it felt like. But I felt nothing. There wasn't even any pain there, and that made me feel even more happier than before, knowing that this is the right thing to do. What the hell are you doing? A man yelled from behind me, and I immediately drew my ears back and tucked my tail closer to me. Are they trying to find me again? I thought they left. Look at me. The man screamed, and I couldn't help but jump at his loud voice, which made the knife drop from my hand and embed itself deep in my leg. I didn't feel much pain. The only thing I felt was a stinging sensation when I looked at it. By now it looks like a red-soaked leg. Yes, I hit a major artery. I stood up slowly as I watched the blood trickle down my leg. I sighed. My ears began scanning my surroundings for noise, and soon I heard someone stepping closer to me. I was royally pissed. I was meant to die. I was meant to end my suffering, and this guy just made it worse by being here. In my angry state, I pulled the knife out of my leg and held it in my right hand. Right now I was literally spewing blood from the wound, and I knew if I didn't stop the bleeding I would die, so I ignored it and turned around. There in front of me stood a young man, maybe late 20s, with shaggy brown hair and sweat covering his forehead. So I could tell he had been running. His soft brown eyes looked at me with wonder and concern. His features were soft yet strong, and he had an alright build. The wind caught his scent, which made me sniff the air. He was werewolf, I knew that for free. We've got to get something on that wound. Let me help you. I'm from the Blood Moon Pack. Just drop the knife and let me help you. His voice was sincere, as if he truly cared. I know that isn't true my whole entire life. I've been taught that no one is as they seem and that no one cares for a creature like me. I shook my head side to side to show him I wasn't going as I plastered a crazed smirk on my face as I ran forward with the knife at wolf speed. This must be a sight. A girl in only a night-gun blood dripping down her leg as she attempted to kill herself, but now is trying to kill an innocent man. Life's a bitch, isn't it? I launched myself forward, and his eyes grew wide as saucers as he saw what I was doing. I ran to him using my speed, slashing the knife across his chest, trying to land a good hit, but he already jumped back, doing a flip in the air. He crouched down as he landed, his eyes glazing over, which means he was mind-linking someone. I growled in his direction. He barely even reacted. I knew all too well that mind-linking is bad. My pack would mind-link each other when I was at my most vulnerable. I'm not doing that again. So I began running down the beach, dropping my knife as I began to sprint. I tried to use my werewolf speed, but from the blood ooze, I was too weak. I ran anyway. Turning back around, I saw the same guy and a couple of wolves looking around, and one wolf taking off after me at insane speed, which made me recognize him, Alpha or Beta. While I was turned to look at them, I didn't realize the rock placed perfectly in the ground so you could barely see it. And like the idiot I was, I tripped over it, stumbling over the sand till I fell on my side. My leg, I could feel, was covered in sand and blood. I began to softly sob as I reached a comfortable position, my whole body shaking. I clutched my leg as my adrenaline rush slowly faded and the pain overtook my whole body, and the blood ooze began affecting me more. I laid on the warm sand facing the sea as I watched the waves again. Grab her. Someone screamed from down the beach, and I adjusted my head so I could see what they were screaming about. I saw the figure of a man sprinting towards me, definitely different from the one before, and I watched as he ran closer to me. I let black envelope my senses as I welcomed death, with a soft and dazed smile on my face. Chapter to help me. I stayed silent as I watched the strange man walk around the double bed of which I laid in. I knew this room. I've been in here so many times before it was even a coincidence that this is where my dream has led me. It's a dark gray metal room. A thick iron door is the only exit, sealed tight to make sure I cannot escape. The only normal thing in here was the disgusting double bed that was falling apart at the seams. My wrists were wrapped in chains, one wrist against each bedpost. The same for my legs, one ankle to each post, making escape even more impossible. The man continued to round the bed till he was beside me, just staring at my without clothes body. I would describe what he looked like, but the thing was his whole body was unable to be seen clearly. He was aging. He only wore jeans and a wife beater, but he was still the same man I remember. I could never forget him for as long as I live. The man jumped on the bed, straddling my hips in the process, the hard feeling against my lower region confirming my worst fears. I attempted to close my tear-filled eyes, but my body wanted to see what was coming, what was going to happen to me. The man leaned closer, his face mere inches from mine. The once darkness covering his face shifted to show his now disgusting, wrinkled and saggy face. He had sunken black eyes, his parched lips making it seem like he hadn't drunk water in years. The almost bald head of his was sprinkled with tiny stray gray hairs sticking out of his scalp, making him look like a homeless psychopath. The smirk on his face didn't help with his figure. I did the one thing I've done these past years. I screamed. Keep screaming. That way I know you enjoyed it, mutt. I jolted up, screaming, my tail as stiff as a board behind me and my ears drawn so close to my head I could hide them with my hair. Squeezing my eyes shut, I refused to look at the darkness of the room I was in. I wrapped my arms around my small, frail body. I could feel my form trembling as I watched and replayed the scenes in my mind, each time worse than the last. I screamed and screamed. I placed my hands on my ears so they wouldn't get affected. I began shaking my head sides as they were going to rid me of the thoughts and memories that continued to play. I hated the darkness, and right now that is what is all around me, so I screamed more. I screamed for fear. I screamed for my pain. I screamed for the life I have suffered. I screamed for my family. Why are you screaming? A man yelled at me, and that made my eyes burst open. My ears slowly drew forward and my tail relaxed, meaning that I was safe if both my wolf parts relaxed. I had more faith in my wolf side than I did in my own intuition. The man must have turned on the light, because I looked around the room. I saw the pretty cream walls of a cozy room. The white tiles placed neatly on the floor, a window placed perfectly nearby, and me sitting in what looked like a hospital bed, IVs and bandages on my body. Then my attention went to the man standing in the doorway. He was that same man from the beach, and I couldn't help but feel the feel that came over me as I remembered how I attacked him. With a kitchen knife. Sorry. I tried to say the words, but I haven't spoken in so long, and screaming has been the only thing I can do these past years, so I said, quiet, tears downtail surrounding my head in my lap, as I was too afraid to look at him. But when I tried to catch glances of him, I saw he was a bit baffled as he looked at me. He was showing so many emotions that actually scared the crap out of me. What's your name? I perked up at this, my ears shot up as I heard his steady footsteps come closer to me. When I shot my head up, I saw he was at the end of my bed. He sat down like it was the most normal thing to do, and my response was to curl up into a ball and shuffle backward till I hit my back against the head of the hospital bed. I asked you a question. He asked, anger seeping into his voice as he watched me curled up on the soft bed. His eyes held so many questions. His emotions were so easy to read. As if he was truly sincere. Age, yes, not. What are you? Mute or something? He asked as if it was a joke or something. A slight chuckle at the end of his sentence. I nodded, my facial expression static from showing emotion. He seemed taken aback by this. His smile turned to a frown, and he adjusted his full position before taking a large gulp of saliva down his throat, making it clear he was uncomfortable. It was as if he was waiting for me to then jump up and say something like, I got you. But no. I'm not joking. Well, the alpha will be here soon to Questy. I shook with fear as the words left his mouth. Question in my old pack meant time alone. Time alone meant no one was around. When no one was around, I was beat. When no one was around, I was raped. The visions of my past experiences were closing. I curled myself into a ball, hot tears streaming down my cheeks. My eyes wide as saucers as I rocked my forth, creaming. Nothing was gonna make me calm down. I was too pressured. I was too scared, and I was so ready to end it all. The man kept screaming at me, telling me to stop, but I wouldn't. I jumped from the bed, still on my hurt leg, and leapt for the open window, smashing it into tiny pieces. I went tumbling out of the room and onto the safety of the soft grass below. I was on such a high adrenaline rush, I didn't notice the multiple stitches breaking from my wound on my leg in the glass that just pierced my body. I ran full pace to the forest, blocking out all other sounds. I just ran for the tree line to try and get away from this place. It was night. It was pretty. It made me breathe a sigh of relief. The moon had risen so high in the sky, it seemed millions of miles away. The stars sparkled and shimmered across the night of the night for a mere second before they powered through. A howl from the direction I just ran from brought me back, and I screamed, falling over as the howl pierced my ears. I don't want to be taken. I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to live. I sighed as the thought slapped through my head again and again, my throat to sort of scream. So I just lay there curling up into a ball, my legs tucked under my chin. My arms surrounding my legs. My ears pulled back and my tail grazing the ground as it slowly shifted from side to side. The pattering of feet drew closer. Puffs of tight breathing from running were now easy to hear, and lastly the stop of feet.
The stop of breathing, and only the sound of myself to an even breath.
As I struggled to get my anxiety under control. After silence filled the air for a certain amount of time, The smell of heaven wafted into my nostrils. A smell of water and the damp forest floor. One of my favorites. My tail grew a mind of its own as it flapped around wildly. The sensation of this new smell bearing itself deep into my body, and I couldn't help the small whimpers of excitement escape my throat. My back was currently turned to all the people that were behind me. I didn't want them to see me right now, so I stayed turned waiting to see if this smell would come. And it did. "What are you doing out here, precious?" the metallic voice asked as a shiver ran through my body, shaking me to my core. Chapter 3. What's your name? The way my wolf parts anticipated his presence. The way I could smell him even before he got here. It was weird. "What's your name?" he softly asked me. I pulled my hands over my ears again. I didn't want to hear anything. I wanted the ground to swallow me whole and take me away from this dumb earth. I squeezed my eyes shut, thinking that dumb line we always thought as kids. If I can't see them, they can't see me. Well, I know it's a bunch of bullshit, but I'm desperate. I could hear soft mumbles through my palms, pushing my hands even tighter against my ears, hoping no one would acknowledge my presence. Something warm that sent tingles through my arms swept through my skin, and I jumped away immediately, stumbling over the damp grass once again as I tried to get away from the source. "Shit. I'm sorry. Come here, princess." That's what set me off. I screamed as I thought of the visions coming through my mind yet again. "Don't run, princess. I'll always find you again. No. I'm here to help doll. A king needs a princess to save. No, no, no. Join me in my room, my princess. I'll be gentle this time." I screeched, my voice cracking and breaking every once in a while, but I still continued my little anxiety attack, trying to get that feral man away from me. "Precious. What happened?" the man that called me princess asked in through blurry eyes and my raspy breaths. My thoughts stopped. He was tall and muscular, literally spilling with energy and power that I never knew possible. His ruffled blonde, brown hair was just adding to his look. Those piercing, simple brown eyes held me captive. His body was lean and strong, his tense muscles showing perfectly through his t-shirt. He was absolutely breathtaking. "That's good. Look at me, don't focus on anything else. Just me." I calmed down as I stared at him. He was so perfect that for a while I was destroyed and shattered in more ways than one, but a good way. As if the darkness left me as soon as he was here. The inside of me felt as if I had to touch him, be close to him. Did I want that? "Good girl. Come here, precious." He knelt down on the ground on one knee, his hands making a gesture for me to come closer to him. I crouched on the ground on all fours with my tail and between my ears drawn stiffly back. I looked like a timid puppy entering her new owner's arms for the first time. I slowly stepped closer to him, my knees gliding on the mud and my hands keeping me supported. As I got closer to him, his whole face lit up like I was some miracle. I'm anything but a miracle, but it felt good to be thought of that way. I slowed down when I was almost next to him, and I laid on the ground in a submissive stance, making sure he knew I'm not going to hurt him. "Good girl. Let me carry you back inside." "All right." I nodded my head slowly, and when he made a move to pick me up, I didn't try to stop him. My wolf parts trusted him. It was only when he touched me sparks erupted, making me yelp and begin to struggle. But he had already grabbed me tightly, held me so close to his chest I thought I was going to forget how to breathe. "Shh. The sparks are good. Calm down. You'll hurt yourself if you keep struggling. Sparks are good." I stopped struggling after a moment had passed and pushed myself closer into his chest. The sparks felt oddly calming, so placing my head inside the crook of his neck to feel the warmth of his body, heat and socks taking place. I could even feel as his chest began to vibrate with laughter. His heart stood up when he laughed. My ears turned in his direction to the sound of his laughter and his thumping heartbeat calming me down. Usually I would be screaming when I heard those two things come close to me. "They'll get the doctor to do a full examination on you to make sure you didn't injure yourself further from what you were." "Okay." I nodded into his neck as he began to run with me in his arms, bridal style. I bounced and fidgeted the whole time, but I never once noticed the amount of blood that kept dripping down my leg. And I don't think he did either. It was only when we stopped that the world started spinning, even though I knew I was technically still in this man's arms. looking up at him in an attempt to see his beautiful brown eyes. Gravity felt so powerful as I couldn't resist its force of pulling my head down, my head collapsing back behind me. I probably looked like a dead corpse in his arms. Precious. He knelt on the ground and cupped my face with his hand, the other supporting my small frame. His face shifted into that of worry when he got a glimpse of my face, and I gave him a sad smile as I drifted into black, being held in the strange man's arms. And I didn't even know his name. Chapter 4 Ash. My head was banging as I came to. It was like a million buzzing energetic bees were in my mind, just ready to fly out of there, but the thing was, they held and get out. So the sound of constant white noise filled my being. I groaned as I lay on the soft surface, pulling my knees up to my chest and my ears flat so they didn't get cold. The mattress was soft and the blanket was practically made from angels, because I swear I felt on cloud 9 while I was wrapped in the soft covers. But as I tried to turn my body the other way around to find a more comfortable position, I felt something restricting my movement, a big weight on my hips. So I opened my eyes to the face of a sleeping god beside me. I screamed so loud I swear the bed shook. I pushed his limp body off the bed and he fell to the ground with a thud from my amazing strength. But me being so childish and not knowing how to get this man away from me, I knew I still had wounds, and not that much of an idiot. I pulled the covers up over my head and hid underneath them, quietly sobbing. Did he touch me? In that sick and perverted way. I pulled my hands over my ears as I heard him groan. My body was shaking and the tears were beginning to cascade down my cheeks with no chance of stopping them. My tail went back in the place it always has been, in between my legs. OWWE. Hey, what happened, Precious? I heard the man say as the carpet moved, and limbs we heard as he was, I assumed, getting up off the floor. But I didn't move from underneath the soft, fluffy covers. I felt as my blanket refuge was pulled off my crouched figure, and I shoved my face inside the mattress so I saw only darkness. Why are you hiding? He chuckled to himself. Come here, Precious. I felt the man's arm snake around me as he slowly picked me up, and I began to struggle. Calm down. Don't break your stitches again. I pulled myself into a tight ball as he lifted me up and placed me on his lap. My eyes were still squeezed shut. The only sounds being heard were my raspy breathing, the moving of the mattress, blankets, and the faint sound of the man's calm breathing. The rhythmic and subtle sound of his breaths gave me an air of happiness. A sniff of the air allowed me to catch this man's magical scent and lie before pushing myself closer into his chest, soaking in his scent. It was the exact same scent the guy that carried me from the forest before I blacked out in his arms. So I looked up at the man that was holding me to see his face again smiling down at me. He looked like a god. I swear I saw a halo on his head. The thing that scared me was he was looking at me like I was the only gem in his life. No one has ever looked at me that way, and it was both energizing and stressful. I took this chance to have a glance around the room. It was much different from Alpha 8's room. His was black with dark mahogany. I should know. I spent a lot of time in there. His room was different. It felt calm and was covered in his scent. The mahogany furniture was a light color of brown, which complemented the light blue walls and dark blue carpet perfectly. The bed was a dark blue as well, but it was kinda hard to tell when the blankets were moved and messed up from sleeping, having just woken up from sleeping. Hello, Precious. Have a nice sleep. I blinked up at him. I was so confused as to why he was being nice to me. No one was nice to me back at the pack. Only a couple of the Ongeza even thought of me as a normal werewolf. Half of the Ongeza spent their free time bullying me. I then would praise them whenever they did. Jeremy already told me you were mute, so I grabbed a notepad and marker if you want to tell me anything. I flopped my head to the side in confusion like a puppy and raised to hear him better. He handed me a notepad and a marker, which I took in my hands, glancing at them with confusion. Can I ask a question? He looked at me kinda scared and confused. I hesitantly shook my head yes. Why did you hide? He asked, practically a whisper. I opened the little black marker and hesitantly began writing. It was sloppy and looked horrible, but you could make out the words okay. But what do you expect? Only a few of the Ongeza actually taught me anything. I couldn't go to school, and even when the Ongeza did teach me, it might have only been a 30-minute lesson once a week. I was scared you hurt me or touched me. Why would you think that? His face was disoriented in confusion, and his pretty little brown eyes were filled with wonder. Should I tell him the truth or lie? I decided to go with the truth. It's not like lying was gonna get me anywhere. My old pack, they always hurt me and touched me, what? He yelled out, and I jumped away from his embrace, landing on the ground on mine, crawling into the corner of the room. I held my hands over my ears and went into my protective ball with my tail tucked around me. I whimpered as I heard loud noises around the room, with his grunts of rage and exhaustion present. I sobbed in the corner. Even if I had to deal with rage and pain like this all my life, anger always scared me the most. That's why anger is my favorite emotion. Ash, what the fuck are you doing? Holy shit, you're scaring the fuck out of her. I looked up at the sound of a female voice. There stood a girl. She was pretty. Far prettier than I am. Her blonde hair was stunning, and her brown eyes were just like those of Ash. The girl that entered the room ran over to me and embraced my shivering form. I quietly sobbed into her chest as she slowly stroked my head and down my back, mumbling words like "Shake Shunny and IBE got you." I accepted her words and her comfort quickly, snuggling into her lap. Shit. Sorry. I still don't know her name. Ash stepped in front of me and the new girl. His face was red with embarrassment, as if his outburst before was nothing. But the room was in shambles, broken glass, dings in the walls, and that beautiful bed. Its covers were thrown everywhere, the pillows torn, and feathers littering everywhere. Ash handed me the notepad and marker. I technically don't have a name, and not in any records of any kind, oh. What did they call you, Ava? Ava, I like it. Ash yelled in enthusiasm. I tried to stop myself, but I couldn't help but let out a laugh at his little happy dance. Ash was betrayed when he saw me laughing, but smiled nonetheless when the girl next to me gave me a smile of her own. Your laugh is so cute. The girl next to me screeched a little too loud for my sensitive wolf ears, and I covered them with my hands. Hey, watch her ears, they are wolf after all. Ash growled to her, then scooped me up in one easy scoop, making the notepad and marker clatter to the floor. Ash forced my head into the crook of his neck, and he began sniffing mine as he pulled me tightly against him. Ava likes it. I turned to the girl to see her looking at my lower region. I glanced down to see my tail shaking furiously with delight. My face instantly overcame by my blush. Ash must have noticed, because he sent a rumbling laugh throughout the room, his chest vibrating against mine, which sent a pleasuring feeling all throughout my body. "Oh, what W, that's so cute, Ava." He mumbled to me in my neck so I could barely hear. The sparks erupted as his breath continued to fan my neck. That made me squirm and try to get out of his hold he had on me. Now when I think about it, every time he touched me there's been those sparks. What is it, honey? Ash placed me on the ground softly, and I scurried to the notepad and began using the marker to write. Why are there those sparks, and why do I feel so comfortable around you when I barely trust men in general? I showed Ash the page and he scanned over it, giving me a raised eyebrow. You do know what mates are. Right, Ava? I thought for a second. Now that he mentions it, the Ongeza always talked about mates and how they would save us from our torture and death. Guess they were right. I gasped and looked at Ash. He was confused and was staring at me funny. But I leapt from before the notepad and marker on the floor in shambles yet again and into his arms. Wow, when did this energy come along? I gripped him closer and tears of joy cascaded down my cheeks, some things I haven't felt for a while, and now am feeling happiness and joy a lot. Hey, why are you crying? Ash lifted my chin up so I had to look at him, and I gave him a smile. I stumbled out of his arms and grabbed the notepad and marker, quickly scribbling down why. The Ongeza in my pack always said that mates will save us from our torture and death. You saved me. He saw the words I wrote, and I embraced him again, stuffing my face inside the crook of his neck, inhaling his heavenly scent. My tail was waggling so much behind me, I thought it would fall off at this rate, and my ears were straight up waiting for his next words. But they were also up, so I knew if danger was coming. Never let your guard down is what I was taught. Can I ask why death? I pulled my head out and gave him a confused look. Why, of course, death. So many Ongeza died while I was there. Sometimes I think about how it should have been me instead of some of them that died. Ash handed me the notepad, and I noticed while I was picking it up that the new girl had left. Well, of course, so many Ongeza died in my pack. I'm surprised I lost one of them. He seemed angered by what I wrote, and that made me crouch down more and squirm. I didn't want to be a part of his tantrum fit. Behave. Calm down. I pulled my ears back as Chester stared to see what he had to say about me. What's the matter? He lifted my chin up and I gazed into his eyes again, only then did I realize the slight bags forming under his eyes' hair was so greasy. I wrote quickly on the notepad. Don't hurt me. I just didn't want you to hit me. I made you angry. Ash seemed baffled by what I wrote and he gave me a shy gaze. Sorry. My wolf was angry how you had been hurt and touched. Then my alpha senses kicked in about how other pack wolves were being hurt. Vampire deception. I Dwight Mason and EY Gwait. As an undocumented changeling, unforced to code at a low-level witch. HES and Alpha. HES gonna beat me for being a troublesome wolf. I screamed and shuffled away, holding my ears and keeping my tail close, screaming my head off. I don't want to be hurt again. What happened? Ash yelled, slight anger in his voice and tone. Tell me what happened. He slid the notepad and marker on the ground over to me. I hesitantly grabbed it and wrote, Alphas are cruel and torture their own gaza. I don't want to be hurt again. I threw the notepad to him and sobbed in the corner, holding myself together like it's my last ray of hope. Technically it is. Ava, after you breathed out my name, I twisted my ears so I could hear him better. I glanced up at his crouched form, looking at me with sadness and guilt. Those brown eyes made me feel so sad inside the way they look now. I know you probably had a rough time at that place and you probably don't like alphas. But I'm your mate. I would never hurt you. My job is to protect and with my life I shall. After his speech I felt better already and wiped my eyes, giving a soft smile at his sipping a soft form. We sat there for a while, just staring at each other for a while. My stomach decided that after a minute to make a large growling noise. I wasn't even hungry. Ash chuckled to himself, hungry. I blinked at him a couple of times. My family just came over. That's who that girl was. She's my sister. My parents are also here. I told them about how I found my beautiful, sweet and kind little mate. Let's go get some breakfast. Is it a bad time to tell him I hate food? Chapter 5 Breakfast. Ash didn't let go of my hand the whole time we walked down the stairs and I was surprised he didn't just pick me up as I stumbled over my feet more than a couple of times. My ears were always up, searching for any dangers, swiveling and turning side to side. I could hear the steps me and Ash were taking on the stairs and the constant mumbles of people talking further down on the first floor. When we reached the bottom of the stairs, Ash didn't let go of my hand and I didn't want him to. This is one of the strangest feelings I've ever gotten. I usually hate guys because they were the main asset to my suffering, but as he held my hand I cowled and helped but to feel safer than I had ever been in my life. The mumbling grew louder as we walked closer down the classical-style hallways. The house was beautiful. It was a classical old-style home with light-washed wood furniture and furnishings like that of Ash's bedroom. Yet in comparison to Ash's bedroom, instead of the walls being blue, it was a cream color, and the walkway's tile carpet was marked with ancient symbols and patterns that were quite peculiar. An odd house plant dotted the halls every few moments, as if they tried to bring the outside into the house. While in my distracted and curious state, I had already pulled me into a kitchen where a multitude of people were already placed and mingling around. The kitchen was like the rest of the house, white tiles, wood furniture, wooden cabinets and white tabletops and pristine state-of-the-art stove. Oh man, I really want to cook on that stove. Glancing at what I assumed to be Ash's family, I see what I'm guessing is his mother and father. His father was well built, seeming like a strong man that cannot be taken down. His tan skin was withering away slowly, but it was only now becoming noticeable with strong facial features that were toned and tense. His brown hair was the color of tree trunks and his eyes just a shade darker, quite beautiful if you ask me. He stood with his arm around his wife's waist. She had the exact same buff features that her mate has, but in a more feminine way, of course. The one thing sticking out about her were her piercing emerald eyes. Even more annoying thing was she doesn't even look a day over 40. She wore a white button-down shirt with long brown shorts as he wore black dress pants and a dark blue button-down shirt. A girl stood nearby handling a whistling kettle, every once in a while swinging her hips and humming to an imaginary song. She was the same girl that was in SH's room comforting me before. Her blonde hair swishing side her ripped light brown jeans and tight cropped top made her look sexy. I was aficionosa and I never wore clothes like that, so I couldn't dictate if her outfit looked good or not, but she was still gorgeous either way. "Is this your mate?" the older woman screeched as she unlatched herself from her mate's grasp and bounded into my arms. I even had to take a step to stop myself from falling over. She gripped onto me with a huge strength. I stood stiff as a board, not knowing what to do with all this new attention. When she let go of me, she gave me a curious glance, mostly at my tail and ears. She surprised me even more when she reached out and began scratching behind my ear, and a purr began erupting from my throat. I can see now how she's different, but she's cute either way. "You're gonna make my boy happy." She stopped scratching as she spoke the question, and I rapidly shook my head yes, hoping she continued to give scratches. "Good." Then she continued to scratch. The purring in my chest was rumbling through the room in soft rhythmic ways. Soft and calming. That was one of the first times my tail and ears tensed themselves from their positions. "Lily, how did you do that?" Ash asked, a bit perplexed and kinda sad. "I'm guessing because he was the one to find out first." "Well, George loves a good scratch behind the ear in wolf form, as do most people. So it should be the same if part of your wolf is out as well, so I thought I would give it a try." I giggled along happily at the feeling of her fingers scratching the tender flesh. "It's weird if I'm honest." George finally stepped forward next to his wife as I purred along happily to the scratching behind my ear. "Just a peculiar species and creature, but I haven't seen anything like this before. This is something very superstitious." I stopped purring after that, the usual happy moment gone, and I shrugged off Lily's hand. "What's your name?" George asked me as he asked without clothes, a very skilled and slender hand around his wife's waist, pulling her closer. I couldn't help but feel uncomfortable at the gesture the two shared. "Her name is Ava." Ash spoke for me, and I gave him a soft smile as if to say thank you, and in return he gave me a cheeky wink which made my cheeks blush a cute amount of pink. "Honey, you look pale as anything. You haven't spoken at all, and let alone you're not looking too healthy in the first place." Lily asked, taking on that motherly figure. "Are you feeling all right?" "Sure, I'm just peachy." I internally rolled my eyes at her attempt to seem nice to me. All people leave, that's what I've learned. If they don't, they let you down. Hard. Like, I'm glad Ash saved me from that evil man in my pack, but I know in the end I'm going to be let down harder than hard, and when that happens I'll be prepared, so keeping my walls up is the best thing I can do at the moment. Maybe she's just hungry. Want anything? As H's sister walks over, looking down at me with a hopeful smile on her face. From this position my eyes catch onto her sparkling belly button ring. I shake off my weird thoughts and glance up again at the people surrounding me, and I softly shake my head and no. Well, why not? "I haven't seen you eat since we got here," and Jeremy said, "You didn't eat while you were staying at the hospital." His family suddenly became very alert, all of them giving me a look of worry and discomfort. I couldn't help but cringe at all the attention. "Why was she at the hospital?" Lily asks cautiously. Ash seemed to visibly tense. "I bet he was going to tell his family about my past." A high chuckled at his obvious discomfort and how he scrunched his features in deep thought, thinking of a lie. I began to chuckle at Ash's adorable face, his eyes searching the room and face taking on a tomato-like appearance as his embarrassment took over. Ash gave me a look that just said, "What the hell are you doing?" But after a while of my soft chuckles at his new frown placed upon his face, he begins to chuckle along with me. I was kinda hoping it would ease the sudden enchant that's buried itself into the air. But it does nothing. "So why was she at the hospital?" "Spit it out." Lily seemed to get more annoyed by the minute, and I could even sense the slight power that began ripping from her voice and the power that rose off her body in rhythmic waves. The power immediately brought pain. I'm technically still an omega to most packs, while betas and gammas, sometimes even members of a pack, can ignore an order for an amount of time. I don't have that strength to reject an order, and since an omega is the bottom of the bottom in the pack rank charts, with her tone and power radiating, I couldn't help but clutch my head in pain for defying her orders. "Babe, are you all right, Ava?" The power soon took its toll, and my ears became numb to the noise. My limbs felt like jelly, and I couldn't breath. This just was from defying an order. I was having a panic attack from defying the order. Should someone call the pack doctor? My gasp for breath only became faster as he mentioned the pack doctor that would only make things a lot worse. Ash. Fucking Shess having a panic attack, and if you call the damn doctor, Shess going to put herself into a fucking coma at this rate. As H's sister, who I still don't know her name, yelled over the commotion. I heard nothing else as the black dots scrawled into my vision, wrapping me in their tight trance, where I was most likely not going to get out of any time soon. But the darkness was something I hated, yet accepted. The dark made me feel comfortable, yet it made me feel so much anxiety. I would have done anything to end it. Hello, Ava. A soft angel-like voice spoke to me. It couldn't be. Chapter 6. Things will only get worse before they get better. Hello, Ava. A soft angel-like voice spoke to me. It couldn't be. A blinding light appeared from within the darkness that had enveloped me. It was as if I stood right in front of the sun and I was hit by its powerful light beams in one massive blow to my sensitive wolf eyes. Looking around, I noticed everything was white and bright, but the light wasn't as strong as before. Looking down at myself, I noticed the soft white silk nightgown that the gaze it gave me, but it was as if it was just brought yesterday, not generations beforehand. My tail shook with an unknown tension. Something big was going to happen. Finished checking yourself out yet? I turned up at the voice only to notice that no one was there. I kept twisting and turning, but the room stayed the exact same. You won't find me. I haven't shown you my form for a reason, you know. The voice spoke again, and I gulped loudly. I forced you to go unconscious for one purpose only. The quicker I tell you, the faster we get this over with and you can return. The room shifted into complete and utter darkness. Nothing was visible at all. But at the same time, I don't think anything was in the room at the first place. Gee, the dark was always my favorite. The voice said calmly with a soft sigh at the end. Too bad brother dearest took the dark away before I can truly enjoy it. The voice sounded off next to me, and as I turned I stood there hushed and pale as anything, a dress that seemed to disappear when it got longer, turning into mist, the colors a rich and dark blue that would appear on a cold and dark night sky. Her face was not visible either, as her dark black hair covered her facial features, so nothing above her collarbone was visible. The only skin showing was her chest and arms. Everything else just seemed to be covered up or vanished. I'm glad I could see you before you had to go back to that place, she said softly, a sigh ending her sentence as if she was almost upset. I haven't been a good goddess. I should protect my people, right? But when I handed out gifts and promises to people as if it were candy, it became too much and they began to rely on me. I had to stop myself so no one expected miracles to fall from the sky. Get me? I nodded, not knowing what else to do, but I also understood where she was coming from. Around the darkness, sparks of light began erupting from the darkness surrounding us. I watched in awe as the light stared into the shimmering stars I've become so accustomed to. The woman then walked towards me, placing herself on an invisible platform, her dress hanging off the edge, dangling. She gestured for me to sit next to her, and after a moment of hesitation, I was to sit down close to her. My tail curled itself around me on instinct. My ears were twisting and turning, trying to find any other signs of life. But the only thing I could hear was the sound of our steady breathing, our soft heartbeats. No other life was around us whatsoever. What is this place? I mumbled without even realizing. I gasped when I realized I did just talk. This is a different reality. My realm, if you wish. Your thoughts here may most likely be voiced, so technically talking here is just thinking. She mumbled to me with hand gestures out into the middle of nowhere. Oh, was all I could say. The iris as soul. The ones that did something on this earth. If I find them worthy enough, they can join my constellations. But it's been so many centuries since someone pure has come. I used to have trouble just picking out the hundreds of souls, just to see who would be able to join, but now, she said out of breath as if this was a tough subject, no one is even close. Everyone is evil. Everyone is cruel. She sighed, and only then did I notice the droplet of water that fell from her covered face. I felt so confused, but I pushed that emotion to the side. I placed my arm around her shoulders in a gesture of comfort. She turned to me, staring at my features as I gazed at her long black hair. A moment passed before she gazed back out at the darkness, as I did the same, just staring out at nothing as the stars shined and glimmered. But that's the reason I brought you here. She turned to me again as if she could see me. You've lived a shitty life and I'm sorry I called and help you. Her normal, respectful and posh personality completely vanishing to that of someone who was just your everyday person. You're very different, Ava. You're a hybrid, but not just any hybrid. A vampire and werewolf hybrid. The effects were different than to most hybrids. The vampire and werewolf blood in you were already so strong that when they fought for dominance, your werewolf side fought too hard, and thus the reason you have your ears and tail. You're forever a werewolf, but with the abilities of a vampire, making you stronger than most. I always had a preference for vampires. They could do so many cool things with their abilities, and you have those as well. She took a large intake of air and exhaled slowly. You are such a wonderful person, and for that I hope one day I can let you join my constellations. She turned up, looking at the stars that were higher up in the sky. I wanted you to come here, to warn you of how things will become worse. You'll feel pain 10 times the amount you felt in all your life in one moment. But your destiny still has carved itself a path. You have written yourself a story like no other. That must be finished. After the pain has passed, things will become great and beautiful, and only after that time will you be accepted into my stars. She chuckled to herself. Your story will not be the fairy tale cliché that most would predict, but it will still be so joyful. In some moments you'll feel like the cliché princess, but only after you face the hardship. She gazed towards me again. I hope I see you in my stars one day. I could feel myself slipping from this reality, but I had so many unanswered questions. Wait, I yelled out with more power and authority I never thought possible. The woman seemed startled and tensed, but after a moment she relaxed and continued to stare at me. What is it that you need that you just had to scream out at me, Ava? She chuckled to herself. Are you who I think you are? The woman thought to herself for a moment, turning her head to the side for a moment in fusion, but then she perked up. If you mean the moon goddess, indeed you are right. Then why can't I see your face? I inquired. The goddess turned away from me and gazed out again. It's better that no one knows what I look like but yet imagines who they want me to be, so that each individual person has their own perfect goddess with the different traits and physical features that they want me to have. That way everyone is happy and no one is disappointed. Our own perfect goddess, as I put it. I nodded to her. That was understandable. We all picture our idols and gods our own certain way, and showing what they truly looked like will spoil the fun and ruin that perfect image we had in our minds. Goodbye, my sweet Ava. I'll give you a gift so you know this wasn't just a dream when you awake. She turned towards me and cupped my cheek, bringing it closer to her, and through her hair she placed a soft kiss on my forehead. I'll help you heal from the pain. She pulled away and gazed at me. I'm sorry I put you through this. Forgive me. She mumbled, her voice cracking and the droplets of water shimmering through her hair and falling into a pit of nothing. The reality begun to fade. I wished so desperately to stay, but I knew that wouldn't happen. Chapter 7 Breakfast Take 2. Instead of all the other times how I woke up slowly, this time I literally shot up from my sleep thinking I was still in that reality with her. But it turned out I was in his HS room. I didn't feel dazed. I didn't feel crappy, and I certainly felt better than most days. I hadn't felt this good in years. I was wrapped around in my mate's scent, the smell sending tingles through my body and through my tail, making the gray fur behind my form. Even my ears relaxed from their usual tense position and just enjoyed the sounds of the day. I noticed that I wore a different outfit. A large shirt, which I'm guessing is from Ash because his scent was littered across the whole entire piece of fabric. But when I thought about my dream, my smile went to a frown and it made me ponder. What did she say again? Things will only get worse before they get better. I sighed. Of course, that's what she said. Footsteps sounded near the door. I picked up the fee as most likely as HS. Sniffing the air to check my assumptions, I was indeed correct, his beautiful scent invading my nose like always. He stopped outside the door, slowing, turning the doorknob, probably thinking I was still asleep. When his head popped in through the door, he only showed his forehead and eyes. My help but chuckle at the sight. He looked like one of those failed spies that tried to complete a really difficult case, but in the end managed to save the day with absolutely no skills at all. "Oh, you awake? Oh, you awake?" He seemed happy about it, but kept his voice soft, probably thinking I was still in a dazed sleep. I nodded my head enthusiastically. I just went to grab your breakfast. You've only been out for a couple of hours. He fully stepped into the room and I saw in his hands the biggest pile of pancakes in the world, just dripping with maple syrup. At the sound and smell of food, my face turned into a frown and I shook my head side to side. Ash seemed confused by this and walked over to the bed, placing the pancakes on the dark mahogany side table and moving the lamp over just an inch so it can fit. "Aren't you hungry?" he said while sitting on the edge of the bed next to me so he can see me better. I shook my head again, no. This time Ash began to get a little annoyed. "What do you mean no? You need to eat to live," he shouted, and I cowered. Gee, he gets mad really easy. "What did that pack do to you? I swear I'm gonna kill them all," he shouted, getting up from the bed. You could see his wolf had begun to take control away, and how his eyes became darker and more fierce. He began to throw things around the room, first the lamp at the wall, the glass shattering across the wall. He next grabbed the desk that sat in the corner of the room, knocking over the chair in the process, smashing it onto the floor. During his blinded rage, the pieces of wood from the desk flew across the room, and a rather large piece flew straight my way, skimming my cheek in the process as it headboard behind me. I didn't even flinch. I have felt worse in my days at my old pack, and as the soft blood begun to blossom and trickle down my cheek, I cowed and helped but be comforted by the wound. Ash continued with his ransacking, and this time I didn't cry. I didn't do anything to stop it. I just watched as he let all the anger he had built up in him out. Ash ransacked the room for a good 10 minutes, and I bet he would have gone longer unless he hadn't destroyed everything already. He begun to finish his tantrum slowly, and I stayed still in the bed, not from fear but from the feeling that if I move he will become even more mad and continue his tantrum once again. My nose tickled after all the dust and wood was raised in the air. In the process of the dust flying up my nose, I did a very unladylike sneeze that sounded like a scream. I cowed and helped but chuckle at how childish I sounded, bringing my hands to my face to muffle the sound. That seemed to bring Dash back completely from his wolf side. I also brought my hand back and saw that I had bled a lot more than I first thought. Perfect. Oh my god. Are you okay? Precious. He seemed so upset with himself as he ran up to me from the other side of the room. I sat chuckling as he stressed out over nothing. I was truly chuckling with myself as he stressed over the tinny street scratch on my face. "Come with me to the bathroom and I'll clean it up for you." "Okay." Ash leaned over me, his brown eyes sparkling into mine. They were so pretty yet so simple. The phrase "less is more" truly coming to life when I stared into his eyes. It seemed he was more worried with my scratch as his eyes drifted to my cheek, and as soon as hand went under my leg and the other around my lower back, picking me up so fast, he used his werewolf speed to take me to the bathroom. He placed me very softly on the closed toilet seat. I literally had to wait a good couple of seconds as he lowered me down. It was quite a show. He ran to the cupboards. He literally grabbed the doors of the cupboards and ripped them off, searching for the first aid kit like I was about to die. This gave me time to look at the bathroom. Wood features and white tiles where you wanted them to be. The bath was huge, like a hot tub with a shower nearby with enough space to fit 3 people. The sink and tabletop was also nice. A white bench top with decorations like a toothbrush holding cup, only holding one singular toothbrush. The mirror was huge and clean, completely spotless with no imperfections whatsoever. Great. The mirror is already prettier than me. I softly chuckled as Ash sorted through all the cupboards, my hand muffling most of the sound. Ash caught onto my laugh and you could see it in his eyes how much it calmed him down. Sighing to myself, I got up and sat next to him on the tiled floor in front of the cupboard, rubbing his back in soothing circles. I don't usually have to help anyone, let alone myself. He laughed humorlessly as he spoke, and I cowed and helped but feel in the same boat. I gave him a kiss on the cheek as if to say thank you. He seemed surprised by my little smook and he began to blush a deep red, as did I. Never did I expect I was gonna do that. In all honesty, I just felt this pull to him, like I just craved him close to me as he made feel safe. My best guess was it was the mate bond. By now my cut was healed, all that remained was the stain of dried blood. As I said, it wasn't really that deep. Ash turned to me and stared into my eyes passionately. It wasn't anything like lust or desire, it was just passion and affection which made me squirm slightly, but I kept my gaze on him nonetheless. Ash suddenly turned away from me like I wasn't even there anymore. "Let's get this cleaned up." I feel guilty for hurting you, Ash mumbled, keeping his gaze away from me. I cowed and helped but feel hurt. He had to turn away from me because I made him upset. I sighed and to take matters into my own hands as Ash and I crouched on the floor. Standing up, I grabbed a tissue from a tissue box and wet it under the tap, tapping it over the light wound in a soft manner, cleaning away all of the blood staining my cheek. All that was left is a soft pink scratch that defiantly will not scar. Ash still sat on the tile floor, his gaze on the ground like it was the most interesting thing in the world. Growing slightly angry, I softly stepped out of the bathroom and into the bedroom, my tail flicking behind me, defiantly showing how pissed I was, with soft movements and a tight flick in one direction like a cat when they're mad. Am I a cat or a dog? I stormed to a balcony located near the bed, and I pushed it open with more force than necessary, forcing the slim French doors to bang into the wall behind it. Giving a slight turn behind me, the doors weren't broken, and Ash was following behind me. I wish he did. I began to climb the white wood railing as if it was normal, and I stood on the beams facing towards the backyard of his home. The soft wind was making my hair move in slow motions. It made my ears crinkle slightly and my tail to fluff up from the cold. Turning back towards the house, I jumped from the beam to the edge of the roof in one delicate jump. I wasn't a fighter. I was agile and fast, able to dodge most blows from attackers, which made me take to running from my problems, the better option for most things. The roof met at a point at the top of the building, and I stepped up the dark-colored great aisles as if I was a child climbing a tree on a warm summer's day. At the top, I noticed an old chimney cracking in some corners at the top of the roof. Thinking it would be a great place to sit and relax, I jumped up from the roof onto the chimney and sat down, staring out at the cold winter's day. Today was one of my favorite days to watch the sky. A storm was rolling in. The sky was a depressing gray, almost black. The faint mist that you could tell was rain was coming closer, with the odd lightning strike and sound of thunder at least twice every minute. It was the prettiest sight. Prettier than a perfect summer's day. The sun and soft, white, fluffy clouds had nothing on the power and ferociousness of the storm heading to his home and pack. I could hear as Ash began to run around his room, probably searching for me. His cries soon easily heard. I rolled my eyes at the sounds. Where does he seriously expect me to go during a storm like this? I much prefer to watch it than be a part of its wrath. I watched as guards and normal families poured out of what I believed was the pack house, everybody searching and calling my name as if I was a lost pup. I didn't want to be found yet, so I just blocked out the noise, pressing my ears closer to my head, and I watched the continuous dark clouds rolling in and the lightning strikes that rocked the earth's surface. I sat upon that house for a while, just watching the storm close in as it was a tidal wave in the sky ready to wipe everything out. And that's what I did for many hours as people screamed around searching for me all over the Packlands as if I was some miracle. But I knew I wasn't, and I really hoped they figure it out soon that I'm not worth their troubles.